In fall 2016, I moved into half of a really old house. It was built in the 1880s, a stone's throw from the original campus of Indiana University, which is now a park filled with homeless people and drug addicts. The owners basically turned it into a weird duplex. My friend had lived in it right before I moved in, and he claimed that it was haunted, but I didn't really believe him because he was a bit of an odd guy. Anyways, the layout of the house was weird. You walked in the door and were in a living room type space, and then you kept walking and there was a doorway to a bedroom, and past that was the kitchen. No doors, only door inside the apartment was to the bathroom and one that led to the shared basement. So, my first night there was uneventful. I was a little uncomfortable because I hadn't lived by myself in a long time and was just feeling lonely and on edge. I stayed up late and then eventually fell asleep, but I woke up again around 3 in the morning. Cliché, I know. What woke me up was what sounded like a group of drummers were drumming on every flat surface of the living room. It went on for a while, and I was completely terrified. It was just a cacophony of sound. After about 2 or 3 minutes, I finally gathered up the balls to get up and check on it, and as soon as I passed the threshold to the living room, it just stopped. Nothing happened the rest of the night, but I didn't get much sleep. Couple days later, a friend was visiting and he was about to leave. We were standing by the front door next to my bookshelf, and I told him about how I was having trouble sleeping and the story from the first night. As I was saying this, a book threw itself off the bookshelf and onto the floor 3 feet away. It had to fly past the dresser. The shelf was perched and landed between the two of us. He just gave me a creeped out look and said he had to go. I don't blame him. Eventually asked the guy in the other half what was up, as he had lived there for 8 years. He told me that no one stayed longer than a year, and they all reported the same shit. For whatever reason, he said nothing ever happened on his side. Doesn't make sense, but there it is. My parents started leaving me and my sisters home alone when I was 13 or 14. Of course, the rule was not to let anyone know we were alone and not to let anyone in the house. One night, there was a knock at the door. I went to the door and tried to look out, but I couldn't see. We couldn't pretend we weren't there because the lights and TV were on. I opened the front door a crack, thinking that the person would be behind the screen door, but that wasn't the case. There was a man, late 20s or early 30s, standing in the doorway. I shut the door quickly and told him to get behind the screen door. He obliged, and I cracked the door. Yes, I wasn't very smart and latched the screen door. He told a story about his vehicle breaking down and his need to use a phone. I said I couldn't see a car, and he indicated it was further down the road. I asked why he walked past the two houses right next door to one with no car in the driveway, and he became agitated. Here's a general recollection of the conversation. Him: look, are you going to let me use the phone or not? Me: no, my dad is sleeping, and I can't let you go in his room to use the phone. Him: okay, bring the phone out here and I'll use it. Me: I'm not letting you in the house. Him: just bring the phone to the door. Me: they won't reach. Please leave. Him: okay. I shut the door and lock it. While my sisters and I are talking about how scary that was, the side door handle jiggles. He knocks and says, "Will it reach to this door?" At this point, I tell him to go to the neighbor's house and use their phone. He starts to yell, "I bet your dad's not there. Let me in. I want to talk to him." I said, "Fine. I'll go get him." I then went into my dad's room and got his shotgun. I came out, racked it, and said, "Here, meet my dad." The guy started cursing and calling me names, but he left, or at least, that's what I thought. He had actually gone around to another door and tried that one. Our dog, who was outside at the time, began barking at him. He proceeded to do something that made the dog yelp and cry out. I screamed out that I was calling the police, and he finally left. I felt really stupid for the entire interaction. I don't know if he was just a guy who needed a phone, but the whole experience was creepy, and I was obviously ill-prepared for dealing. Some years ago, I believe I was 9 years old. We lived in a small house we were renting. We were there for a long time and had become rather lazy, storing everything in the second bedroom, where my sister and I shared a bunk bed. She got top because she was taller and would hit her head. So, I'm laying in my bed, wide awake, staring at the bottom of the top bunk blankly. At the moment, there is literally nothing in my mind. I'm just a pair of eyes staring out into space. I continue to stare blankly until about 1 a.m. My sister is snoring. I didn't know she snored. Coming from the window, strategically placed right next to my head, I hear a loud, guttural growl. It doesn't sound in any way natural to this earth. You have to understand, I've never heard anything aside from crickets and cars come from that window. I slowly turn my head, and I start to see some sort of red light coming from the window. I'm thinking, maybe, if I stay quiet, whatever it is will go away. Then my door slowly proceeds to creak open. I slowly look towards the door, and watch in absolute and complete horror as the door creaks back closed, and I'm sitting here, thinking to myself, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. So I pull my pocket knife from where it's lodged, in the wood of the closest bedpost to my head. I continue to watch near the door, when I feel something bump against my leg, which is under my covers in the bed. I'm now so terrified tears are streaming down my face, which is already moist from sweat. I feel my leg, and nothing is there. I realized I didn't hear my sister snoring anymore. I think to myself, oh my God, she's dead. And then something bumped my other leg. Now I can't breathe, as I feel the area around that leg and feel nothing. The door creaks back open and I fly out of my bed in nothing but my own eyes. Hitting my head on the way, I trip over a toe and slam into the door as it closes. I hit the floor and saw a figure looking down at me. It was dark. I couldn't tell who or what it was until I hear my sister laugh and say, "What are you doing, silly?" I point at the window, then at my leg, and make a sound as I point at the door that I had just hit head first, as I begin to really start crying. Here's what had happened. The red light and growl both came from a new air conditioning unit our neighbor had installed, and it distracted me enough to not see or hear my sister get out of bed and go to the bathroom. When she quietly opened the door, thinking I was asleep, one of our 6-week-old kittens got into the room and somehow got onto my bed and under my blanket, where it proceeded to bump against both my legs. My sister finished in the bathroom and came back. She quietly opened the door and closed it just in time without seeing me, for me to crash into the door. I'll never forget how afraid I was, but every time I look back on it I laugh.